If there's one thing consistent throughout human history, it's that we always want to build higher and reach further. The tallest buildings capture the public's imagination and symbolize our quest for constant improvement. Luckily, despite there already being some impressively tall buildings already on Earth, we've still got plenty of sky to build into. To this day, there are towering structures being built that are pushing all vertical boundaries. But this begs one question: just how tall can a building be built? What is the maximum height possible for a building? Put simply, there is no current design limit for the maximum height possible for a building. From a structural standpoint, buildings could theoretically reach any height, so long as the foundation can support the structure. The mechanics of plumbing a megatall skyscraper, for example, require intricate planning in their own right. There's also the issue of elevators, which would need to take people up thousands of feet and would likely require a lot of costly maintenance work. Demand. Before the spades are put into the ground on any new megatall building, there needs to be a justification for the structure in the first place. Of course, this is true for any building that is constructed, but with a project of such massive size, there would need to be evidence that it would serve a functional purpose. Measuring this demand requires careful analysis on behalf of planners to make sure that the building's operating costs do not outweigh the potential income that it will bring in. For example, if the megatall was a hotel, then organizers would need to prove that there would be enough visitors to occupy its many rooms. As well as this, there needs to be a consideration of a range of mitigating factors that may sway demand levels. After all, it's much easier to build large-scale projects in times of societal economic prosperity, but this is not always the case, and all eventualities need to be accounted for in the planning phase. Environmental concerns. As a natural byproduct of their existence, modern megatall structures consume hefty amounts of energy and use up a lot of resources. From the transportation of construction materials to their construction and ongoing maintenance, these buildings can have quite the carbon footprint. It is for this reason that megatall buildings have come under scrutiny around the world for the effect they have on the local environment. However, architects and civil engineers working on the skyscrapers of today do put in measures to counteract some of these effects, such as HVAC systems and energy-efficient lighting. Aside from this, the astounding height of the tallest buildings in the world today means that structures invariably create their own microclimate. They can block light and wind and cause wind tunnels to form in its immediate environs. With a structure thousands of feet tall, it's a challenge that needs to be considered before any firm plans are made. Structural systems. As a general rule of thumb, the higher a building reaches, the greater forces it has to withstand. There's gravity, seismic forces, and wind to contend with for starters. It is the job of engineers to make sure that the lower floors of the building are strong enough to support the many upper floors. To ensure this, a megatall's foundations are usually very deep, especially if the ground conditions at the building site are sensitive. And in areas at risk of earthquakes, preventative measures would have to be implemented, as megatalls are some of the most susceptible to damage during tectonic movement. Tuned mass dampers and shock absorbers would help to counter these forces. But even with these measures, ensuring structural stability in megatalls is always a challenge. Aesthetics. Of course, there is always a question of aesthetics when it comes to building megatall structures. Such lofty buildings have huge visual impact on a city's skyline, and in many cases, a city's tallest buildings become emblematic of a city as a whole. So, it is a challenge for any architects working on the tallest buildings in the world to deliver a design that not only incorporates all structural necessities, but also fits in aesthetically with its surrounding environment. Will we build a mile-high building? Now that we know what challenges are faced with building megatall structures, it's time to ask, could we construct a building that reaches a mile high? Well, the answer is probably a yes. Researchers at MIT, using data from the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, have suggested a 9% chance that a mile-high skyscraper will be built by the year 2050. Even if this milestone is not reached, it's still possible that a mile-high structure will be constructed at some point. That said, for the reasons outlined above, it will likely prove an extremely challenging build with a heavy cost, and planners would need to prove that there is a demand for it. What are the challenges of building megatall structures? With any megatall structure, there are a number of fundamental challenges that need to be overcome. Some of the biggest include the soaring costs, environmental impact, and before anything else, assessing whether there is a demand for such a vast structure. Let's explore these challenges in more detail. Cost. Put simply, the financial clout needed to build megatall buildings is gigantic. From the planning phase, right through to the end of construction, each aspect of getting a megatall off the ground requires serious investment. For evidence of this, you will only need to look at the expenditure needed to build the current tallest building in the world, which is the Burj Khalifa. This cost is $1.5 billion, and was largely only possible thanks to a huge donation from the ruler of the UAE at the time, Sheikh Khalifa. To even contemplate building a taller structure than anything that currently exists, this eye-watering budget will need to be agreed to, which may be easier said than done. Indeed, maintaining a megatall building that is far higher than anything currently built is not likely to be easy. After all, the building would almost certainly have to support human habitation all the way up to its upper floors, which means that amenities would have to be provided at all levels. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for content just like it.